I thought I might like to do this one in German. Sprechen die Deutsch? Ja? Well, but I got a news flash, a little 20-second commercial. Is 10 days ago we had 7 stations available, and right now we have 3 available. Okay? 3 to go. And the theme of my talk today, or what I want to get across to you, is what I call the big picture. So I want you to just keep that in mind. Let's do this. The big picture. And just kind of bear with me. I'm going to tie it together before it's over. And there's some fundamental truths. Since today is our conference is The Truth Will Set You Free, there's some fundamental truths everybody has to come to terms with in your life. Number one, is God created the universe. God alone. He created the universe. As it says in Genesis chapter 1, God said, "Let there be light." The second one, number 2, is God created this earth as our home while we're here. And number 3, and this is where we're going to tie it together. Is God created us to be saints. And he created the earth as that place where we work out our sanctification. As St. Augustine said, "Our hearts are restless until they rest with you, O Lord." St. Paul says, "The will of the Father is our sanctification." Or in other words, we were created for heaven and not earth. We were created for heaven and not earth. This is the test period, the testing ground. Heaven is our home. How long is the rest of us going to be here? At the most, say 100 years at the most. Compare that to eternity. How long is eternity? Draw this room full of zeros with a 1 in front of it, and it's only a fraction. It's not even a fraction. It's nothing compared to eternity. Eternity is a long time. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on how science is coming to the truth about the creation of the universe, and then I'm going to tie that into St. Louis de Montfort, whom I think discovered the secret of sanctification, which is what we're going to be talking about, okay? First, science in the universe. In the middle toward latter part of the 19th century, a distinguished Frenchman boarded a train headed for Paris. And along with him at the same time, a young man who was a university student at that time in Paris at one of the scientific institutes boarded the train also. The man sat down, the older man sat down and started to pray the rosary. Excuse me, I got to get a glass of water. And the young man saw him praying the rosary, and he walked up to him and he said, "Why are you praying the rosary? That's no longer something that we do. It's the times are changing. We're in a time of great scientific discovery. We're in a time when these practices like the rosary, that's medieval stuff. You got to get away from that." So the older man said, "Well, tell me more about all this scientific discovery." So the young man began to explain to him all the discoveries that were going on in France at that time, and in particular, he noted about this famous Frenchman, Louis Pasteur, who did all the research in bacteria, and that's where we get pasteurized milk from. So it was a time of scientific discovery. So he kept telling him all these things. And at the end of the train ride, the older man handed the young man his card. You know who the older man was? It was Louis Pasteur. So, probably, as always, it was probably prayer and praying the rosary. It's the reason we had all these scientific discoveries. I personally believe that God allows us to have the wisdom that we need in any particular instance in our path here on this earth when we need it. What I'm getting to is if when we need oil deep down in the ground or natural gas deep down in the ground, he gives man the technology to get it when they need it, when we need it. And when we run out of gas and oil, then he'll give us other technology like windmills or whatever. The earth he created is our place, and he's going to take care of us, and he's going to provide for us. So back to the fundamental thing, though, prayer is probably the fuel that fuels all these discoveries. Now, recently, Pope Benedict XVI told us there's no struggle between science and religion. And I'm going to touch just a little bit how the truth is also setting the scientific community free. Remember, on point number 2, God created the earth as our home. Psalm 19, it was last night, I think it was even last night. The heavens proclaim the glory of God, and the earth shows forth the work of his hands. That's more literal than you think. I mean, that's exactly what happened. The heavens proclaim the glory of God. What does it say in Genesis 1:3? God said, "Let there be light." God then separated the light from the darkness. What have the astronomers come to discover in the last 50 years? By the time I was in college, they thought that the universe started from like a marble-sized thing, and then finally they did all these different things, and some of them began to study St. Thomas Aquinas, and some began to read Genesis, and now they've concluded, this is what's really interesting, astronomers have concluded that the universe was instantaneously created. Instantaneously created, and what they're saying is that in an instant, the universe was filled with light. And what does Genesis 1:3 say? God said, "Let there be light." Now, what you got to know is, folks, there was a lot of light because that light gathered together and formed the stars and the planets, okay? So the universe was created just like it says in Genesis, literally, let there be light. Isn't that amazing? But it took us all this time to figure it out. The scientists had said, you know, they do what happens to scientists, they get into what I call the therefore misbehavior. Is they say if A equals B and B equals C, therefore C equals D. That doesn't follow, guys. If A equals B and B equals C, only God knows the next thing. Until they discover it, then they can say it. And that's what they got into trouble with. Is another example with the earth being our home, is they discovered billions and billions of planets. And one scientist puffed his chest up and he said, therefore there must be a lot of earths. You remember that a few years back? There's going to be a lot of other aliens and all this stuff. Okay, so we're going to go into the next thing now.